Greetings, groupmates, professor, and whoever has to watch this presentation. My name is Jennifer Lynn, and I'll be covering the 1988 Democratic primary, specifically the endorsements. Now, before I get into the endorsements, I'm going to explain what this primary was, at least the basic information. You see, the 1988 Democratic primary was kind of like our primary, our Democratic primary specifically, except, without the conflict between the party and, no coronavirus or worldwide pandemic. It was similar to the 2020 primary in that the Democratic Party really wanted to win an election after a Republican presidency. So lots of people decided to run for president. Technically, more than 7 people ran for Democratic nominee in 1988. However, these were the ones that kind of made it to the primaries. As you can see, the 7 dwarf candidates, Jesse Jackson, Al Gore, Paul Simon, Michael Dukakis, Dick Giffard, Joe Biden, and Bruce Babbitt, were all running for president at the time. Their primary was a bit difficult, at least for voters, because for a while no one could figure out who the best candidate was. As you can see, Joe Biden also ran for this primary in addition to this year's primary. However, unlike this year's primary, Joe didn't get a nomination. Joe actually dropped out because he didn't properly credit a British politician for a line in his speech, so he had to drop out in shame. Although in the beginning of the race, no one could really tell which candidate was the best. The winnowing process of the primaries sort of boiled it down to 3 candidates. Specifically Jesse Jackson, Al Gore, and Michael Dukakis. The other candidates, aside from Biden, simply didn't do well enough in the primaries. So they had to drop out for financial reasons. Even though 3 candidates did fairly well in the primaries, it ended up with a face-off between Dukakis and Jackson, the governor of Massachusetts, against the popular civil rights leader. Al Gore didn't make it because he accepted the endorsement of an unpopular New York mayor, specifically Ed Koch. Jesse Jackson, as you can see from the image on this slide, was the first, black nominee to really run a campaign for president. However, despite Mr. Jackson's efforts, ultimately Michael Dukakis won the primary. Although he did try to, go for vice president, but that didn't work and he kind of backed down so the party wouldn't be divided on racial lines. In a way, Dukakis versus Jackson is a lot like Bernie versus Biden, because Biden is a moderate and so was Michael. As you can see, here's the final delegate count for the primary. Michael Dukakis got all these delegates because his campaign focused around him sort of bringing Massachusetts out of economic depression. As you can see, Jackson isn't so far behind, maybe by a few hundred, as Jackson did, unlike Bernie, did actually see his campaign to the very end. So I believe the delegate count sort of reflects the endorsements in 1988. However, the party's decision to choose Michael didn't exactly bode well for them, as we do not have a President Dukakis, or else we would have had the first Greek American president of the United States. Instead, the nomination, the winner of the general election was George H.W. Bush, specifically Bush Sr. After Bush ran a few successful ad campaigns against Michael, and Michael didn't exactly respond fast enough to counteract the ads. Additionally, Michael, despite being a moderate, was accused of being a liberal by the Republicans, and he didn't take that well or use that to his advantage until it was too late. So let's hope that for the 2020 primary, it won't be a complete repeat of 1988, where the party chooses a moderate candidate and fails to win the general election.